The airport buzzed with hurried footsteps, rolling luggage, and murmurs of delayed flights. Inside the exclusive VIP lounge, a world of luxury unfolded: leather chairs, gourmet buffets, and the subtle clink of champagne glasses. Reserved for celebrities, CEOs, and first-class elites, this oasis was far from the chaos beyond its frosted glass doors. But on this particular day, something unexpected happened. A man in a worn leather jacket, carrying an old duffel bag, approached the entrance. His hair slightly disheveled, his boots dusty from travel. He looked more like a weary biker than a billionaire movie star. And yet, it was him. Keanu Reeves. Unrecognized and underestimated, he stood quietly until a stern security guard stepped in. What happened next became the talk of the entire terminal. This is the story of how one man's snap judgment led to a shocking revelation, and how kindness, humility, and a twist of fate reminded everyone of who Keanu Reeves truly is. Chapter 1. The Lounge of the Elite. The Emerald Wing of Hamilton International Airport was not listed on standard flight maps. Nestled between Terminal A and a restricted gate, this hidden luxury lounge catered exclusively to dignitaries, high-profile entertainers, and top-tier clients. Designed with marble floors, custom art installations, and walls lined with vintage wines, the lounge was as much a symbol of status as it was a place to relax. On this cool spring morning, the lounge was quietly alive with chatter. A tech billionaire scrolled through stock alerts. A pop singer adjusted her sunglasses and sipped on a cucumber martini. And the staff, ever discreet, flitted like shadows, silent, efficient, invisible. Standing at the entrance was Charles Denton, head of private security. A former military man with a firm jawline and polished boots, Charles took his job seriously. He was trained to detect threats, to sniff out intruders, and most importantly, to maintain the prestige of the lounge. So when he saw a man approach who looked out of place, his instincts kicked in. Chapter 2. The Stranger Approaches. Keanu Reeves moved with the quiet confidence of someone used to being overlooked. His duffel bag slung over one shoulder, his clothes simple but worn with authenticity. He wasn't trying to stand out. He never did. That was the thing about Keanu. Despite being a world-renowned movie star, he seemed more comfortable blending in than basking in the spotlight. As he approached the glass doors of the lounge, he offered a polite nod to the receptionist. She barely glanced up, assuming he was lost. Behind her, Charles Denton rose slightly from his stool. He adjusted his blazer, squared his shoulders, and stepped forward. "Sir," Charles said curtly, standing in Keanu's path, "this area is reserved for VIP guests only." Keanu smiled gently, unfazed. "I believe I'm on the list. I have a first-class ticket on Flight 709 to Tokyo." Charles didn't flinch. "We still require lounge clearance. May I see your credentials?" Keanu hesitated. "I think it was arranged by the airline. Maybe check under—" Charles raised a hand. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to step away from the entrance." Behind them, a few other guests began to look over, their curiosity piqued by the exchange. Chapter 3. Misjudged. Keanu wasn't offended. He'd experienced this before, at hotels, award shows, even restaurants. Wearing humility like a second skin, he rarely corrected people or pulled rank. But this time, the situation felt unnecessarily tense. "Look," Keanu said softly, "I'm not trying to cause trouble. I was just told I could rest here before my flight." Charles crossed his arms. "And who told you that?" "Because unless your name's on this list, you'll need to leave the area immediately." "Maybe check under Reeves," Keanu said patiently. "Keanu Reeves." Charles let out a half-scoff, half-laugh. "Right, and I'm Tom Cruise." Keanu blinked, then offered a half-smile. "Nice to meet you, Tom." Behind Charles, the receptionist finally looked up and froze. Her eyes widened, fingers hovering over her keyboard as recognition dawned. "Oh my God," she whispered. "That's really him." Chapter 4. A Whisper. Spreads. The receptionist sprang into action, typing rapidly. Charles noticed the flurry and turned to her, frowning. "Is everything all right, Madison?" She glanced at Keanu, then back at Charles. "He's on the list, sir. Keanu Reeves, first-class guest of the airline, with priority lounge access. Booked by the studio." Charles's face twitched. "Studio?" "Warner Brothers," she said. "He's on his way to Tokyo for a press tour. Something about a new John Wick film." The air shifted. Heads turned. A middle-aged woman in designer sunglasses let out a gasp. A young couple pulled out their phones discreetly. Keanu had gone from mysterious biker to living legend in seconds. Charles's posture stiffened. "Mr. Reeves, I didn't recognize you." Keanu shrugged. "It's okay. Happens a lot." But the kindness in his voice only made Charles feel worse. Chapter 5. Regret. Charles stepped aside, holding the door open with exaggerated formality. "Please, Mr. Reeves, allow me to escort you in. My sincerest apologies." Keanu gave him a light nod and walked through without any arrogance, as if the previous exchange hadn't happened at all. But Charles felt the burn of embarrassment ripple down his neck. The receptionist handed Keanu a welcome drink with trembling fingers. "I'm so sorry for the confusion, sir. If there's anything you need, anything at all, please let us know." Keanu smiled. "I'm good. Just some tea and a quiet corner would be perfect." He settled into a chair by the window, pulling out a dog-eared book from his bag. The same man who could command millions on a movie set was now sipping green tea like a traveler at a bus stop. Charles stood near the entrance, shoulders slumped. It wasn't just that he had kicked out a celebrity, it was how he had done it. Abrupt, condescending, dismissive. He had made a mistake. And worse, he'd made it in front of a dozen high-profile guests who now saw him as the rude one. Chapter 6. The Backlash begins. Word spread quickly inside the lounge. A whispered game of telephone rippled through the guests. "Did you see what just happened? That security guy tried to kick out Keanu Reeves. He thought he was a drifter." Videos began circulating. Guests had captured snippets of the exchange. Charles standing firm, Keanu remaining calm. On one screen, someone had already posted the clip online with the caption, "Security guard disrespects Keanu Reeves, but Keanu handles it like a gentleman." Charles watched the reactions and felt his stomach twist. This wasn't just a bad look. It was a public bad look. His pride and professionalism had blinded him to one of the most beloved actors on the planet. Chapter 7. A manager intervenes. The lounge manager, a sharp woman named Helena Saint. James arrived moments later, summoned by the receptionist. She was impeccably dressed, commanding in presence and visibly alarmed. "Where is he?" she asked quietly. The receptionist pointed. "Over there. He didn't want to cause any trouble." Helena walked over to Keanu with the grace of royalty. "Mr. Reeves, I'm Helena, the lounge director. Please allow me to personally apologize for the misunderstanding." Keanu looked up from his book and smiled. "It's really no big deal." "But it is," Helena said gently. "You were treated unfairly, and I'd like to make it right. Perhaps a private suite, something quieter." Keanu shook his head. "This spot's perfect. The view is nice." Helena paused, then smiled too. "Then I'll just bring you something on the house. Perhaps a bite to eat?" Keanu nodded. "Sure, whatever the chef recommends." Helena turned to Charles as she walked away. Her look was brief, but it carried weight. Chapter 8. The Lesson Sets In. Charles approached Keanu once more, nervous but determined. "Mr. Reeves, may I speak frankly?" Keanu looked up. "Of course." "I made an assumption based on how you looked," Charles said. "And I was wrong. You were gracious about it, and I appreciate that, but I owe you a genuine apology." Keanu nodded, closing his book. "Thanks for saying that. It's not easy admitting you're wrong, but we all make mistakes." Charles hesitated. "I judged a book by its cover." Keanu smiled. "Well, this book's cover is pretty worn, so I get it." They both chuckled, and something shifted between them. The tension dissolved, replaced by mutual respect. Chapter 9. The Internet Reacts. Outside the lounge, the airport's free Wi-Fi had already done its work. Clips of Keanu's quiet grace and Charles's mistake were spreading like wildfire across social media platforms. On X, formerly Twitter, a trending tag emerged. Number Keanu keeps it cool. Only Keanu Reeves gets kicked out of a VIP lounge and still thanks the guy for doing his job. At Jet Set Justice. Keanu dressed like a nomad, treated like a nobody, and still outclassed everyone. What a man. At Flight Diaries blog. In just a few hours, the story began to make the rounds on celebrity news outlets, blogs, and YouTube commentary videos. Headlines included, "Keanu Reeves snubbed at airport lounge. His response wins hearts again." "Security guard regrets kicking out. John Wick star." Keanu's humble spirit shines through another awkward encounter. For Helena and the airline, the situation was now a PR firestorm in the making, or a golden opportunity, depending on how they handled it next. Chapter 10. A Call from the Top. In a corner office of the airline's corporate tower, a senior executive named Nolan Grant stared at his phone. His assistant had just forwarded the trending video. "Why is Keanu Reeves getting thrown out of our VIP lounge?" he asked out loud. His assistant, barely old enough to rent a car, replied sheepishly, "Apparently, security didn't recognize him." Nolan rubbed his temples. "Great. The one guy who never complains, never causes a scene, and we managed to make national news insulting him. Should we issue a statement?" Chapter 11. An Unexpected Guest. Meanwhile, back in the lounge, Keanu sat with a small plate of fresh sushi and a hot towel folded neatly beside his tea. He had tucked the book away and was now simply watching the runway outside, planes lifting, landing, the world in motion. Then came a soft voice from behind. "Excuse me, are you really Keanu Reeves?" He turned to see a little girl, no older than 10, standing with a shy smile. Her mother stood a few feet back, clearly nervous. Keanu gave the girl a smile. "I think so, but some people think I'm Tom Cruise." She giggled. "My dad says you're his favorite actor. He's a soldier and he watches your movies when he's away." Keanu's expression softened. "Tell your dad I said thank you, and tell him he's my hero." The girl beamed. Keanu reached into his bag and pulled out a small sketchbook. He flipped to a blank page and drew a quick doodle. Himself holding a tiny flower, waving, and signed it with a note. "To the bravest dad and the coolest daughter. Stay strong. Keanu Reeves." The mother teared up. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means to us." "Actually," Keanu said, "I might." Chapter 12. Redemption in the Lounge. Charles Denton stood nearby, watching the exchange. He'd been silently observing Keanu ever since their conversation. He expected to see ego, resentment, maybe a hint of smugness, but instead all he saw was compassion. He wasn't just watching a celebrity, he was watching a human being who happened to be famous. And in that moment, Charles decided something. He walked over to Helena. "I'd like to speak at the staff meeting tomorrow." "About what?" "Judgment, image, and what we get wrong when we assume." Helena tilted her head. "You think it'll help?" Charles looked toward Keanu. "I know it will." Chapter 13. A Twist of Fate. Just as Keanu finished his tea, his phone buzzed. It was a message from his agent. "Hey, airline exec just called. They're mortified. Want to offer you free upgrades for life plus a chance to design your own lounge? Also, PR team says not to post anything, but the internet already loves you again." Keanu smiled and typed back, "Tell them no need for upgrades. But I'd love to design a lounge, one that doesn't judge travelers by their shoes." He leaned back in the chair, relaxed and content. Around him, the lounge had changed, not in design but in energy. The guests were warmer, staff more attentive. People whispered not in gossip but in admiration. Keanu didn't need to prove who he was. He just was. Chapter 14. The Meeting That Changed Everything. The next morning, inside a staff conference room above the lounge, Charles stood in front of a group of sharply dressed employees. The projector screen behind him was blank. No PowerPoint, no charts. Just him, his voice, and an uncomfortable truth. "I made a mistake," he began. "A big one. And not just because the person I judged turned out to be famous." He paused, looking around at the faces, some curious, others awkward. "I looked at a man in old boots and a leather bag and assumed he didn't belong. I treated him like a security threat instead of a guest. And I did it because I let my pride and assumptions do the talking." Silence filled the room. Keanu Reeves didn't yell. He didn't name drop. He didn't demand anything. And that, ironically, is what made me realize how small I'd been acting. He had more dignity in that moment than I've shown in months. A slow, quiet nod rippled through the room. One staff member raised a hand. "Do you think he forgives you?" Charles smiled. "He already did. Before I even asked." Chapter 15. Behind the Leather Bag. Later that afternoon, Keanu was quietly checking in at the Tokyo gate when a young journalist recognized him. Not one from a major network, just a freelance writer named Yasuo working on a travel blog. He hesitated at first, but finally walked up. "Mr. Reeves, I saw the video from the lounge. May I ask you something for my blog?" Keanu nodded. "Sure." "What were you carrying in that old bag?" Keanu chuckled. "Would you believe me if I said laundry?" The journalist laughed. "Seriously?" Keanu unzipped it and showed him a few wrinkled shirts, a copy of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and a small pouch with handwritten letters. "They're from fans," Keanu said. "I read one on every flight. Reminds me why I still do what I do." Yasuo nodded, then asked, "You've had a long career. Do you ever get tired of being treated differently, like a VIP?" Keanu looked out the window for a moment. "I don't mind being treated well. I mind when others aren't." Chapter 16. The Lounge Reimagined. Back at Hamilton International, Helena met with the design consultant team the airline had flown in. They stood in the lounge with floor plans, tablet mock-ups, and a directive from the top. Create a new kind of VIP space, one inspired by Keanu Reeves. Keanu hadn't asked for a statue or branding. Instead, he sent a list of things he'd like to see. Comfortable seating where people can be left alone. Free books, especially ones people can take with them. A section for military families to wait in peace. Complimentary meals for people on standby flights. Less judgment, more kindness. The lead architect blinked at the notes. "This isn't a VIP lounge. This is a sanctuary." Helena smiled. "Exactly." Chapter 17. An interview goes viral. A week later, Keanu appeared on a Japanese late-night show. The host, known for wild antics and blunt questions, asked, "So what's this I hear about you getting kicked out of a lounge?" Keanu laughed. "It's true, but I also got the best tea of my life afterward." The host laughed along, then asked, "You didn't get angry?" Keanu thought about it. "I was tired. I had jet lag. But what good would anger have done? He was just doing his job. I looked like a guy who wandered in from the wrong gate." The audience chuckled, but Keanu wasn't finished. "I think the real question is, how many people like me get turned away, but aren't famous? That's the part that stuck with me." The clip aired the next day. By morning, it had over 12 million views. Chapter 18. Full Circle. A month later, Charles received a handwritten letter. It had no return address, just a wax seal with the subtle design, a motorcycle silhouette. He opened it. Charles Dash. "Thank you for owning up to your mistake. That takes strength. What matters is what you do next. I've seen a lot of security guys in my travels. Very few have ever followed up the way you did. Keep leading with humility. We need more of that. And hey, if you ever find yourself in LA, come grab coffee. No velvet ropes, I promise. Keanu." Charles folded the letter carefully, sliding it into a leather case beside his airport credentials. He stood a little taller that day, not because he was guarding celebrities, but because he was finally learning how to treat everyone like they mattered. Chapter 19. The Grand Reopening. 6 months later, the newly designed Keanu Lounge opened to the public, not with a red carpet, but with open arms. No flashy press conference, no celebrity guest list. Just a simple sign out front. "Welcome, you belong here." Inside, the atmosphere was warm and tranquil. The walls were lined with donated books. Artwork created by children of airline employees and military families adorned the space. There was a quiet meditation room, an area for families, and even a snack bar with pay-what-you-can options. Reporters asked if Keanu would be attending the opening, but he wasn't there. Instead, a small framed note sat near the entrance. "To every traveler who's ever been underestimated, this place is for you." KR. Guests walked in wearing suits, uniforms, sweatpants, backpacks, and boots. No one looked twice. Helena watched from a distance, deeply proud. Charles, now head of lounge operations, walked beside her and whispered, "I think we finally got it right." Chapter 20. A Chance Encounter. In Paris, months after the incident, Keanu walked into a small bookstore near the Seine. He was in town for a film shoot and had a few hours to kill. As he browsed the shelves, a man approached him cautiously. It was Yasuo, the freelance journalist from Tokyo. "Mr. Reeves," he said, "I didn't expect to see you here." Keanu turned, surprised. "Hey, good to see you. How's the blog?" "Still small, but that article about you, it blew up." Keanu smiled. "You're a good writer. You told the story without twisting it." Yasuo nodded. "Can I ask you one more thing?" "Sure. After everything that happened, if you had the power to undo it, getting kicked out, being misjudged, all of it, would you?" Keanu thought for a moment, then shook his head. "Number. Because if I hadn't been thrown out, maybe no one would have been let in." Epilogue. The ripple effect. The world didn't change overnight, but for many something subtle shifted. Charles now held monthly training sessions at the airport, not just about protocol, but about empathy. His story, once a source of shame, became a case study on humility and growth. Helena was promoted to a new role overseeing guest experience. Her motto, "Serve the heart before the status." Yasuo's blog took off. He began traveling globally, documenting stories of compassion in unexpected places. His readers called it the Reeves effect. And Keanu? He never mentioned the lounge incident again publicly. But in quiet moments, when fans asked him for advice or when reporters dug for controversy, he'd often just smile and say, "Everyone's going through something. Be kind." One time, at a private film event, a young actor nervously asked him, "Mr. Reeves, how do you handle being famous?" Keanu chuckled and replied, "I don't. I just try to be human." And in that simple truth, perhaps, lay the entire lesson. Thanks for watching and subscribe the channel Unsung Acts. Bye.